how do you as a coach kind of get your clients to start following through with the plan, with all the preparation that they're doing to have them have some sort of successful, negotiated agreement?
What I find when people don't follow through is that there's something that they come back with that feels a lot like regret and shame. And the thing that I have found, and my clients, right, because I give them the choice, I sort of put it out there and say, where do you want to take this? The thing that my clients have found and that I've come to believe is a more productive path is not so much to go back to, okay, what part of this did you not learn and how many times do we need to rememorize it, or do you need cue cards or whatever it is? It's much more about uncovering that reaction of shame and regret, and right, because in that story is usually the kernel of what it was that got in their way when they went to execute in the first place. Some version of, I can't do it, I'm not enough, I'm under pressure, I'm going to get fired, right? Whatever it is. There's going to be an escalation, I'm going to look bad, right? And normalizing that a little bit and letting people process that emotion, right? And really think it through. One of the things that I often like to do with people and say, so what's the, do the worst case analysis. So okay, let's imagine that it does get escalated and it does look bad for you. What's the consequence of that? And then what's the worst thing that can happen, right? It's almost like, when little kids are afraid of monsters under the bed, you kind of want to take them under the bed with a flashlight and sort of shine it around. You have to look under the bed and really look into what's the actual fear and what the impact would be for me before you can actually put it aside, right? Just saying put it aside is really lovely, but we're human. It's hard. It's just really, really hard. And that has seemed to be more of a shift for people than anything else. More practically, the ways that I found to, like, in a more tangible way, the ways that I found to help people execute on a plan is practice. And the more that you can practice in the form of curveballs, not just what's the script I envision and how will we run it from point A to point thank you very much handshake. No, it's much more the script of what might go in a way that I don't expect. What might they come at me with? What might surprise me? And what do I do if those things happen? So we really want to think about what their alternatives could look like. Not what they are, right? I feel like when I talk about alternatives, I spend a lot of time talking to people. You're not trying to understand in a way that you are right. You may be dead wrong. But as you think about the other side's alternatives, you really want to think about what's the range of possibility, because you want to be prepared just in case that is a viable alternative for them. So really thinking about, doing some scenario planning, really envisioning where things could go south and what you want to be ready to do in response tends to help people with following through on a plan.
So it just made me kind of reflect back on my journey, my military career. I was very fortunate to be able to spend a short stint of time within a unit inside the special operations community. And this is like the best soldiers. And I had the opportunity to lead a small group of them. But what I really learned and took away from that organization was the power of the after action review, which is kind of what you described and at least how we vision it and everything. But really what's more powerful is, like you said, we aren't just trying to figure out, why did you do X? It was like, what is the thinking that you had to lead you to want to do X? So really trying to understand, okay, what's the reasoning behind that, and let's get at that first, the right or wrong of what actually happened. I think that's extremely powerful for a coach to be able to do that, because you're really allowing them to see inside, understand the reasoning, and really get at that.
Nolan, what I love about that is this question about what were you thinking that led you to a particular outcome. One of the, so many review processes in organizations are built on the military's after action review processes. So that's an important piece, and I think it sometimes gets lost because sometimes those reviews sound like, what did you screw up, right? And if we're looking for creativity, innovation, right, for people to solve complex problems, if the moment that you review something that didn't go perfectly starts with, what did you get wrong? We very quickly tie people's pants behind their backs, just from an organizational standpoint, right? So that question about what was the thinking that led you to, right? If you look forward, and for me, that's actually even what coaching is really about, is coaching is not about solving problems or diagnosing conditions or anything like that. There's therapy for that, there's all kinds of problem solving frameworks in the world. And if you need to do that and you need to do some root cause analysis, that's great. But when I think about what helps people be successful, right? If you look into the work of Martin Seligman and some of the positive psychologists, it's pretty clear that if you focus on what's positive and what's possible, we trigger the parts of our biochemistry that actually help us be successful, that help us think, that help us be creative, that help us be engaged, that help us be committed, that help us get motivated. And so looking at it from the perspective of what were you thinking and what could we do differently or better next time is so much more powerful than what did you get wrong and why.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of changing gears here, if it's okay, Julie, what kind of gender considerations do you see as a woman who's able to step back and observe women who are in the negotiations process? But I'm sure you can shed a lot of light on. So
So I want to be careful here. I am not an expert. I am one woman living in a woman's experience. But when I think about this, I think about the way in which people who are perceived by society as other engage in negotiation and leadership. So it is completely different whether it is other because of the color of your skin, or whether it's gender, or whether it's age, or whether it's range of ability, or whether it's sexual orientation, whatever it is. But otherness tends to create stories for people that get in their way, and tends to create stories for people we negotiate with that get in their way. So there are for sure some patterns, and they're in the popular literature, but I've met lots of women who don't fall into those patterns at all. So some patterns that I've observed, certainly in myself and in many of the women leaders that I work with, a tendency to think about the other side and talk themselves down. We have a tendency to negotiate against ourselves before we get into the conversation. I was just talking to a woman yesterday who was offered a role in another organization. For a variety of reasons, she was not interested in taking it. She really loves her work. She leads a couple of really vibrant teams. She's really excited about what she does. She loves her organization. She loves her leadership team, but she's pretty significantly underpaid. And she learned that through this offer. And as she started looking around the industry, realized she's pretty significantly underpaid. So she came out and she said, okay, I'm thinking about going to ask for a raise. I'm not sure if I want to rock the boat, and I really like this job, and I'm not sure what to do. And, I figured I'd just make a list of thoughts. And she shared this list of, it was like 14 bullet points. And only numbers 1, 6, and like 9 supported her case for a raise. All of the others were reasons why she shouldn't get a raise. Well, my benefits are good. I have flexibility. As I said to her, I said, I wonder what would happen if you sorted your list in order from pros to cons and then just deleted the bottom, right? What would that do? And we were in a conversation with a bunch of other women leaders at the time and basically said, what would you do if you were a white man? Which is kind of the refrain that comes up in a lot of groups, right? And it doesn't mean that everyone does, but there is this sense of, if you believe that you were entitled to something, what would be possible for you?
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. If you could please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast, we'd greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next episode.